space. Indeed, one of the central pleasures in life is sharing what you've read, finding common ground, pressing a heartfelt recommendation upon somebody else. If nothing else, I hope this commuter's guide will offer some new suggestions for you. A word on the canon and this book's relationship to it. I have picked books throughout, and there are references to more than 500 throughout this work that I think are important and meaningful to me and I feel I know something about. This is inevitably conditioned by who I am and where I grew up. There can never be an exhaustive list, and it will omit, by accident and ignorance, writers who've been historically undervalued, even as it tries to identify some of them. My overall list will skew towards European males because they've dominated much of the literary discourse over the centuries. But over the course of the year I will read books written in broadly equal numbers by men and women, and will think about the question of diversity and write about it quite a bit. Identity is an important issue, though it is not, and I think this is a point worth emphasising amid today's culture wars, the only one. Without wishing to overstate it, reading for me is one of the central facets of existence. I cannot spend a day without a book. One does not love breathing, said Harper Lee about how she once undervalued the act of reading. Imagine books taken away from you, forbidden by the state, and you will see what she meant. I have, in common with everybody, regular moments of mental unrest, roiling disquiet, uncertainty and anxiety. I manage them with a sedative, an analgesic, the escape into worlds created by other people. The invention of the novel, it seems to me, is one of the true triumphs of human endeavour. It codifies something magnificent within all of us, and that's the act of empathy. When we read, we forge a connection with an author, and often then a common culture or tradition that is greater than us. Reading is an act of enlarging, of expansion. It makes our I bigger than just ourselves. It stretches our sense of identity and experience. Reading is also, of course, a diversion about which I shouldn't get too breathy and serious. Thank goodness I sidestepped that landmine. This year of commuting for me has been, above all other things, fun. And you don't hear that very often. I experience a tingle of expectation as I approach the train platform in the watery morning light. Even more so when I know I'm starting a new book, which may or may not turn out to be something I remember forever. All this literary work has given me joy, distraction, meaning, and above all, repose. It was a troubled year, 2019, especially in politics, though as we now know it had nothing on 2020. As in an Austen novel, world events will loom and hover in the background, but never quite obtrude. Brexit is mentioned, as is Donald Trump, but soon passed over. So here it is, a year in the life of a commuter, a year in books that encompasses continents and millennia compressed into a few hundred pages. I guess there are never enough books, said John Steinbeck. He was right, but this is an account of a few to be getting on with. Winter. January. Crime. This month I'll be reading Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, The Tiger in the Smoke by Marjorie Allingham, and Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. 2nd of January. The first journey of January is always burdened by gloom. I sit in an empty train carriage well before daybreak with night seeping away. London in the dank dark always reminds me of Dickens. This is from Oliver Twist. Morning drew on apace, the air became more sharp and piercing, as its first dull hue, the death of night, rather than the birth of day, glimmered faintly in the sky. The objects which had looked dim and terrible in the darkness grew more and more defined and gradually resolved into their familiar shapes. At such moments it's easy to feel weighed down by the elements, as if life were dissolving into one giant pathetic fallacy. Anthony Powell, who we'll meet later, once wrote that early morning bears with it a sense of pressure, a kind of threat of what the day will bring forth. He, like me, was susceptible to a bit of cosmic gloom. But gloom is just gloom, isn't it? Just darkness decaying into light, unconnected to what we feel inside. 3rd of January. Have you noticed that history books often begin with wintry weather? It is as if the past, as Powell also noted, is somehow signified by the sensation of cold. Perhaps historians want us subconsciously to be reminded of times when we were less removed from the elements, were not surrounded by the warm prophylaxis of modern comforts. Elmore Leonard's first rule of writing was never open a book with weather. And he is right that it's become a cliché. The forgotten novelist Edward Bulwer Lytton began a novel in 1830, Paul Clifford, with this famous clunker. It was a dark and stormy night, the rain fell in torrents, and it's now become the epitome of bad, weather-based opening lines. There is even a contest in his name in which writers compete to offer atrocious openers. This was the winner in 2018 by 17-year-old Tanya Menezes.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.